anything. So like when I've sat,
Hey,
I've
you're
never
talking
had.
to the right audience because I have.
I'm not.
I have a bowl of bread dough. That's what I just call this big thing.
But
And I'm just
it's
like,
been super stressful.
so
But it's
hard.
menopause too, and so I was telling her like, no one's. I'm gonna actually. I was thinking about seeing my Auntie T has. She's a nurse practitioner and she did it in endocrinology, so like she knows all about hormones.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about inviting her to talk about menopause, talking to us about
Teach us
menopause.
all the things.
Because
like that.
I'm so stressed because like I could run forever and it doesn't do anything.
I think that guy, you know that guy that's a V-shred or whatever?
Yeah.
He's always like,
I know.
this is wrong, and you guys are trying to do this, and especially women in your menopause. And I was like, okay, maybe I need to actually tune into this guy.
I know. I've been watching him some too.
Maybe
There's an
he
app I'm
knows
debating
something.
getting about macros, counting your macros. That always
What's
overwhelms
macros?
me. But it's like your food. It's $13 a month though. I feel cheap. I'm like, I don't want to spend $13 a month. But it's like, especially for women, like you put in kind of your goals and your weight, but also like your age and all the things. And so it's like your macros. It's like your
Protein,
so you eat your protein, and so especially for all of us, but like protein is so pivotal. It's so important. And I'm like, we're massive meat eaters, but I am sure I don't eat like the amount of whatever of each of the things that I should eat every day. Do you know what I
And
mean?
like fiber and
All the things.
yeah. Oh, I know. I feel like I'm a
Well, I've been fasting. I don't even eat breakfast anymore, and I'm not
and I'm
losing
wondering.
weight.
I'm so excited to hear about that.
I almost planned for that one. Yeah, that's
because
nice.
because I feel like
The fast like a girl, you mean?
because I feel like our hormones. I am going to get my blood taken and have my hormones looked at. I'm gonna have my aunt look at my hormones. Like
It's a good idea. I think I need to do that too.
Blood levels and all that. Yeah.
Something is not working.
well, just or know how to manage it and manage my expectations. Like
I don't want to manage my expectations.
or
I
like you
wanna
can
be
get
a size 6 again.
Well, I don't know how to speak into that.
No,
I
know.
don't.
That's the thing.
I don't
That's
know,
my
and that's the
problem.
thing. Like I don't know how to do. Like I used to be able to do push-ups and sit-ups
But
for
I
3
think,
days, and I'd have a
too-
6-pack, and that day's gone.
Well, and also like where
they
we're
are
at
strong.
in life right now, I follow this lady. I can't remember her name, but she's like she's an empty nester, and so when her kids it was so sad for her, and so she spent her time when her kids left the nest. She got in the best shape of her life.
That's what
in
I'm
her
gonna do.
mid-50s, and I was like, I see that because right now, like if I can get in 30 minutes a day, I'm like. That's what I got. That's all I got today, and that was kind of a lot. And it's usually while I'm multitasking, which isn't even the smartest. Do you know what I mean? But like, so I think our time it'll come.
Okay. Are we ready for me now?
Right. I feel like, are we gonna open a prayer?
Well, I feel like we should open in. Well, we've just talked about a lot of shame right then about our bodies
So
and our
much shame.
feelings.
I was definitely ready. Is that what we're doing?
Yes, name your
Okay,
shame,
name your
baby.
shame.
Part 2.
Yes. Well, this is vulnerability.
Shoot, mine's on my
Part
Vulnerability.
two.
phone. Hold on, I can remember it. I
I
know
have
what
it.
it is.
I
Yeah,
didn't write
name your
anything down
shame.
today.
I wrote my notes, but
Oh, I
don't
have
read them.
mine right here.
I'm just documenting pictures. Don't look over.
Gosh,
Just
don't-
as you are. As you were.
Maybe look skinny. Okay.
As you are.
So, I want to just do a quick recap. We've been talking about vulnerability, and my sister from another Mr. Brene Brown.
Banana Brown.
Banana bread.
Brene Brown.
You
You said banana.
No, I said Brene. Brene Brown. Maybe I said banana, but who knows?
Who knows? Honestly,
And
who
how
knows?
the key to vulnerability is knowing our value. Remember, we talked all about like being courageous, being kind to ourselves, being.
It's a daily struggle.
It is. And the biggest piece about that is about being kind is knowing and naming your shame. So,
Okay. Mine's gonna come into this a little bit. which I
yes.
kinda like.
Ooh, I love when it does that. So, a lot of what I'm taking is from Brene Brown's second TED Talk, all about shame.
Ooh.
And she
Is that what it
says,
was called? All about shame?
no, I don't know what it's called, but it's about shame.
Okay.
So she says, shame is a swampland of our soul.
Ooh, that's good.
So it's our job as people to navigate and understand our swamp. Now,
Good.
there's a difference. Some people want to build a house in their swamp and live there. We're not living there. We're putting on
Shrek, we're not
galoshes.
Shrek.
Yes, we're putting on our galoshes and we're wading into the swampland so that we can navigate it. And the reason we can navigate it is that when we find ourselves there, we know how to get out.
So good.
And so if we don't know what our swampland looks like, we get stuck and lost in the swamp. So we want to instead actively go into our swamp, navigate it, map it out, so that in a situation,
Do we want to go into our swamp, or do we want to know how to avoid the swamp?
Or how to
No.
get out of the swamp.
you can't avoid the swamp, people. Like, if you
That's
think you
true.
can avoid the swamp,
That's true.
I'm in
But
the
I
swamp
wonder
for
if you
sure.
can learn skills to
we're going
not
to.
get to the swamp. Like,
Well, I
like,
think
I
it's,
see this coming. Normally, I would have felt super ashamed about this, but I know these truths, so I'm gonna turn around and not go to the swamp.
well, I think that's what you're starting to feel, the soaky ground, and then you
Okay,
can turn
yeah,
around. But
yeah.
you're still you
Yeah,
you
you're on the
still
cusp.
yeah. And
the edge.
And depending on your hormones or where you are in the month, you might be just setting sail. Other days you might be really pulled together, had great devotions, and you're like, ooh, the ground feels squishy. I'm headed the other
Yeah,
way. Like,
that's good.
that's why you have to navigate it. You need to
Or
know
know it.
all about it. Yes, ma'am.
In the Pilgrim's Progress,
Yes.
isn't there a swamp called the Slough of Despond?
Yes.
And despond
Or
is despair.
Yes.
It's like despondent is despairing.
Yeah.
Yes. And that is shame, baby.
Yeah.
That is
So
shame.
good.
You're giving up.
So
You're giving up to him.
I want,
Mm.
as always, let's talk about what shame is and what shame isn't. Okay? So
pumpkin.
shame and guilt are two separate things. They sometimes feel synonymous, but just like we were talking about the last time about, I forget, hopefully you listened and you know that there were two things we were kind of like, courage and bravery.
Oh yes.
Like
yeah.
those, like
They're
shame,
close, but
not quite. So
They're like
shame
cousins.
is about self and guilt is about behavior.
Yes.
Okay?
Mhm.
So, and you need to, so shame plays two tapes over and over and over. One is, you're never good enough. And then if you're able to kind of like weasel your way out of that, who do you think you are?
Mm.
And those are the things that,
who do you
Think you are.
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
That's what I say whenever we like spend a lot of money at a restaurant. I'm like, who do we think we are?
exactly. So, and that, so shame focuses on yourself and guilt focuses on your behavior. So, a really great way to,
What's a question about guilt? Shame is who do I think I am, and
yeah, and so like, so who do you think you are? So here's a way to explain it. So if I hurt somebody's feelings, I would say, like to you, Amy, I'd be like, Amy, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Will you please forgive me? My gosh,
that's guilt.
that's guilt.
Okay.
I made a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Shame would be, I'm sorry, Amy, I'm a mistake.
Okay.
I'm
I'm
the
a
problem.
loser.
I'm a loser. I'm the
Mhm.
problem. I'm not worthy to be your friend.
Okay.
So
Hmm.
it's really, so this is really fascinating to me, this whole concept of shame, because I struggle with it horribly. And the thing that as I was listening to Brene and the crust where the meat grows, people, where the meat grows,
The crust of it all.
the crust of it all,
The crux of the matter and the crust of it all.
is that is learning to separate our behavior from our identity.
When
And
you say guilt is behavior and shame is feelings more?
it's about ourselves. So
Right.
it's not separating our behavior. So here's the thing. We are all sinners. Like, this is when I listened to it and read and did all the research. This is, for me, the crux,
Okay.
the meat.
The meat.
We are all sinners. I know you're trying not to laugh at
I
me.
swallowed. I did it.
Okay. We all are sinners. And so being able to separate, and we all make mistakes. Like, every day we sin, every day we do bad things, every day we're not perfect. So learning to separate our sin from our identity. Who is our identity? We are made in the image of God. We were created, man and woman, in the image of God. We learn that in Genesis 1, or maybe 2. Like, it depends on.
Mhm.
So we are made in the image of God. So learning to separate ourself from our behavior, we learn to then be brave. And we learn that's where vulnerability lives is in that separation. Shame is taking our bad behavior and making it who we are,
Yeah.
For sure.
right?
Yeah.
And when we do that, that kills vulnerability, because we're losers, we're horrible, we're disgusting, and then we lose our value.
Mhm.
And then that it closes us off. We're now sitting in the swamp, and now what do we do? What do we do? Like, how do we grow? We can't. We're losers. I can't grow.
Yeah.
I'm unworthy. I'm unlovable. I'm disgusting.
Right.
You know, like, and so the thing that's fascinating is the wave. They've studied shame. Brene Brown studied it for 6 years.
Yeah.
And it affects people the same way. That triggers the same part of our brain, like that wash of shame that we all feel.
Yes.
It's like a wash. Men and women feel it the same way. But what causes us shame is incredibly different. And I found this very
Is
fascinating.
it just super personal to the person?
No, kind of, I guess. Women, shame is do it all, do it perfectly, and never let them see you sweat. So like doing it all, being it all, doing all the things, being the best mother, being the best wife, being the best this, being the best that, doing it all perfectly, not showing flaws, always, you know, she used the example of like a 1950s like advertisement for perfume, and it was like, make the bacon but not smell like the grease, and like
Oh, yeah.
being all the things, and not only being all the things and doing it perfectly, make it look easy. Like you're not struggling. There's no struggle in this. Being
Yeah.
perfect,
Yeah.
having the perfect family, making the most beautiful meal, having the most beautiful house, having you know, being able to go to the grocery store in your heels and your pearls and getting it all done and having it look perfect. And it wasn't hard. And never saying it's hard.
Which
Never.
is why comparison is one of our biggest struggles.
Yes.
You just went on the floor.
No, I
Interesting.
thought it was a blueberry.
It is not.
It's not.
For men, shame. So that's like she said, like ours is like a crossroads that puts us in a straitjacket. It's like all these different things and perceptions that put us in a straitjacket.
Perceptions, yes. Because
Men, it's one thing. Do not be perceived as
as
weak.
weak. Yep. That's so good.
Wild.
Mm-hmm.
Don't so so anyway, that's the thing. In that psychologists have found that not to feel shame. So okay, this was funny. She said everyone feels shame. And the sooner we all own it, the better. If you are like, I don't feel shame, psychologists said the only people who do not feel shame are sociopaths, people who are unable to have empathy or connection.
Interesting.
So she's like, Brene was really funny. She's like, so you have two choices. You can say, yep, I struggle with shame, or I'm a sociopath. Which would you like to choose?
Yeah.
So that was also a light bulb moment for me because of my childhood. I was raised by someone who does not have empathy or connection. And so that it's been interesting. My swamp design is way different than most.
Right.
Because
You don't fit the mold, the typical mold.
right. So I was raised by someone who doesn't know or show empathy or connection. And what's my biggest shame? I can't show, I'm scared of connection and showing empathy or weakness, because if I am weak and imperfect, I will not be loved. So that's my swamp. It's really delicious.
Can you guys think of like the last time specific, like the wash you mentioned?
Oh, yes, yesterday.
Yesterday.
Okay. Oh, are we gonna share that?
Last
Yeah,
night.
so
I just did my body.
Oh, that was a wash of shame you felt?
yeah.
Yeah.
You know, the last time that I felt it was with you. The last time, not because of you. The last time that the wash, when you mentioned the wash, I remember, and I'm sure there's been more since then, but it's so interesting to me because I'm like, well, you guys can process it with me, but when we hunted together and I shot that deer.
Oh.
So the first thing Kevin said when I called him was, he's like, that was London's deer. Because it was a little buck. And I instantly, and he didn't mean it anyway. He was surprised. He's like, oh, you shot London's deer. And just the way he worded it, he wasn't mad, but we didn't need it. We had a deer hanging.
I mean, I sure was glad to have it.
Well, I gave it to Rachel.
Yeah.
You know,
Like the
and
whole
so,
deer.
and I felt this immediate wash, and then I was like,
Mhm.
and I felt like I did something like that was super selfish of me. I took a deer that should have been more for London and Kayla, and then I was like, was I like trying to show off in front of Rachel, like, and shoot a deer in front of, you know what I mean?
I mean, I thought it was amazing.
But I mean, the whole thing, and I kind of sat in it for a while, and I've still processed it, and I think it's a people pleasing piece, but not really, because Kev's my husband, so I don't feel like I struggle with people pleasing with him. But it was more like I did something wrong,
Right, you disappointed.
and I was selfish in taking. I didn't feel it at the time. I literally saw horns and we had 1 minute of light left and I shot it. That was my thought process. But I'm like, would I have shot it if Rachel wasn't with me? Was I trying to show off with her? I wasn't even considerate. London didn't even cross my mind that I should have let her shoot it. So it felt very selfish and very self-centered. And Kevin saying that like shined light on it. And I think it wasn't that intentionally, but that is, and that I immediately
it wasn't
felt that
at
wash.
all. To me, I'm like, you guys didn't even need the meat. I'm so glad that you shot that deer and that you gave it to me. And like, so from my perspective is the opposite of all of that.
Well, and it is a self-perception thing too, right?
Right.
I was like, you're my sensei. You were showing me how to shoot a deer. And it was like the perfect moment. It was epic. It was in the last seconds of the last minute of hunting light. And it was like the coolest story ever. And then, it was wild and wonderful.
It was crazy. I think the biggest thing for me was it didn't cross my mind that I should have saved it.
Isn't that like so many things that happen in our life though, where we are doing one thing, and it hits someone else
differently,
literally the opposite of how we meant it in that moment, and how friendships and families and even wars start are destroyed and start over the perception in the middle. So like for me that was a wonderful moment, and like it makes me sad that it quickly became something else.
Overarching, it was so special and it was so fun to do it with you, but that comment I instantly got a wash. That was like exactly what you said, and I apologized to Caden's girlfriend at the time, was trying really hard to get a deer, and I literally texted her. I said, I'm so sorry, I wasn't thinking, and I should have saved this deer for you. And so she's like, it's totally fine. But like, I felt so ashamed that I had,
So that's
to me, it was one of the greatest moments ever.
But that perception, that's why learning to be able to separate that, like maybe you were being selfish, or maybe you were.
It didn't even cross my mind, so probably like it should have crossed my mind.
I think you're a very instinctual person.
Yeah,
and so
we had a minute, so I see it all for the pieces of what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
But that doesn't just because let's say it was selfish, that doesn't mean you are selfish.
Right.
And so it's
It
learning.
doesn't mean you are shellfish.
Shellfish.
I
You're
am
not a lobster. And so separating those two things is
for sure.
Is how
Don't
it
you
works.
find that as we get older, and especially with the people that you know the most, so like I feel this in a good way washing over me and all my siblings and my closest and dearest friends that I've had since because I was like, we've all been together for so long, and I was like, I find that I have much more grace for them, and I feel like that I'm receiving grace coming towards me as well. But as far as like, I know her better, that's not what she meant. Or I know that they must be having a hard day if that happened.
all the time.
I even was the recipient of this from almost a perfect stranger. Like I dropped clothes off last year in a mad, I think it was probably this time of year, to the consignment shop that's in our town, and they were like, you can't drop that off today. And I had just lugged in a bunch of totes, and I went Miss Piggy on that. And I literally was like, I've been coming here for 27 years or whatever it was. I was like, I'm not leaving without these totes, and you're gonna empty them and you're gonna give me all my dollars. And they were like, we don't really do that anymore. And then the girl, she's like, I'm gonna go get my manager, okay? Because I was like losing it. And I was having a really bad day. I was very, very emo about other things, and that triggered me to do this. So it has
not so often the case.
It had nothing to do with this.
Right.
I was emo about my kids and my this and whatever in the season and all the things. But that triggered me. And then out comes the manager, who is like the sweetest person, and I had no idea she was the manager and she was my friend. And I was just like, I'm not doing this. I'm not gonna bring those totes back in my car. I was like, the toughness went away, but I still was like determined to not yield. And she was so gracious, and she's like, I will take these for you. We will. We don't have time to do them right now, but I will take them for you. Wink, wink. And please don't tell anybody, because now I'm breaking my rule.
Right.
That we don't take whatever on our. And she was so
guys,
kind.
don't take your totes on the days you're not supposed to.
So 2 days or so later, I wrote to them and I was like, I'm so sorry that I came in and went Miss Piggy on that. I'm really sorry. I don't know what. She's like, it's okay. I told everybody that that's not your character.
Aw, yeah.
That's not you, and you must have been having a hard day.
Yeah.
And I literally burst out crying.
Aw.
And I was just like, thank you for the grace that you.
So good.
I don't know her well, but I have been going there for 20 some odd years, ever since I had kids and all the things. And she was like, that's not normal. She must be having a really hard day. And I was like, how kind is that? Because I was really mean. I was just like a snarky, mean woman where I was.
I believe the word you're looking for is Karen.
Oh, I was thinking of another one. That's good. Good filter.
Yeah. All the things. I was all the things. I was the entitled, privileged white woman losing her mind because of I didn't want to bring my totes back outside. And yeah, all the things. And they chose kindness.
Yeah, so good.
But I feel like as we get older, it's, at least I'm finding it easier to give, and I'm more thankful when I receive it.
Yeah.
Well, what you did there is the important part. So shame grows. So here's how to get rid of shame, right? So okay, first I just want to read this. So learning to see that your behavior is separate from who you are is incredibly important. We are all sinners. We are all going to make mistakes. We are all going to have bad behavior. But we need to learn to separate our bad behavior from our actual identity, which is created in the image of God, who loved us, died for us. And more importantly, and it is important that we can start changing our behavior. And that can be changed when we acknowledge our shame. Right? So that's why that was, you acknowledged it. You were a total Karen, right? You felt shame. But instead of shame grows in secrecy, shame grows in secret. Hold on, I have it all there.
That's biblical.
Yes, secrecy, silence, and judgment. Okay, so you instead of judging them and being like, well, they should have made it more apparent that the policy had changed, or being secret about it and not telling anyone about it, not reaching out, and that silence, that shame would have grown in you. Instead, what you did is you brought it out to the light. You recognized you were a Karen. You emailed the lady and was like, I was a total Karen. Thank you for being kind to me. Please forgive me for my Karen behaviors. And because the cure to shame is empathy. What she gave you was empathy. What she said was, I know that's not your character. I know that's not who you are. I told everyone that is not who she is. That is not her character. That empathy instead of judgment, shame cannot grow.
That's like what we say to our kids, like if ever like one's a putz to the other or whatever, is we say, that's not who you are. That's not who you are. You know, like just speaking that over them, even like even if they kind of think it is who they are. You know what I mean? Like so and so is a jerk, or my teacher is such and such, and so I don't care. And I'm like, that's not who you are. Like,
yes.
You know.
So good.
That isn't. And so shame, how shame affects vulnerability is that if we live in shame and we're secret and we're silent, that closes off vulnerability. That affects us. So we can't grow and change and find courage and live authentically because we're keeping everything secret. And so and I mean, boundaries fit in here. You do not need to shame. You don't need to shout your shame from the rooftops, right? But
shout your shame.
Shout your shame.
But Brene Brown talked about how
it's like a song. Shout out your shame.
A 90s toy song right there. Brene Brown talked about, and this is how she kind of discussed it, which I thought was super fascinating. When she did her first vulnerability talk, she had a nervous breakdown. She called it a vulnerable hangover because she had just shared within a room full of people that she was doing all this research, and she realized that the way to grow and change and live authentically was vulnerability, and that realization gave her a breakdown. She's like, I just told 500 people that the thought of being vulnerable gave me a breakdown. And then she said she had met her friend. She didn't come out of her house. She met a friend, and she's like, I heard they're putting it on YouTube. What am I going to do if 1,000 people see it? It's over 4 million people
so awesome.
Watch that, right? So she was in...
But was she actually being vulnerable, or was she just talking about vulnerability?
She was being vulnerable because she was saying...
It gave her a nervous breakdown.
It gave her a nervous breakdown. She had to go see a therapist because
Okay.
She wanted to put authenticity and feelings into a box.
She didn't want to tell people that she had a nervous breakdown.
Right.
Yeah.
And that vulnerability, right? And like
it's like when you need to take meds for anxiety and depression, and
right.
go to have a little stay, a little vacation in a mental hospital,
Or you need to go to counseling for your marriage.
Yeah.
It's
You know,
like,
it's
we
like-
we don't want.
Hey, I've done all of the
I know,
above.
right.
There's
That's the
certain-
whole idea, right? Though, like we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony.
Right.
And so,
And the big thing is that like that is so. What she said was so funny was that she was in the grocery store or in the sports store, and this woman was like, "Hey, it's vulnerability Ted, vulnerability Ted, vulnerability Ted," and she was like, "I was ignoring it. I was ignoring it." She's like, "I'm like a new action figure," and she goes, she's like, "You're the woman who had the breakdown," and she was like, "It was a spiritual awakening." And the woman said, "That's right." And she talked about how her book club now calls themselves the Spiritually Awakened. And we're all falling apart and it feels good is their tagline. And Brene Brown realized, again, our vulnerability, our weakness, we see as weakness and other people see as courage. Like,
so good.
so
The quote, "Your bravery is someone else's breakthrough."
yeah, yes.
I love that. I don't know where I don't remember where it's from, what book we read, what other things, but I just remember that stuck with me
good.
so much.
Right. And so being able to share and believe and understand our shame. She also talked about the warrior in the arena quote.
Yes, I love that.
I'm going to look
Read
it
it.
up.
Yeah,
Yes,
read
hold
it.
on.
Love that quote.
But what was really arena. Sorry, guys. I should have had this already prepared.
Arena. The warrior in the arena. That's
Yeah.
a book.
No, it's a quote.
It's a quote from Roosevelt's.
You've heard it.
You have heard it.
Okay, we'll see.
The man in the arena.
Oh, it's a man in the arena.
Oh, yes.
Now you
Instead of
know.
a warrior.
Now you know. You're like, oh, yes. Okay. All right. This was super profound for me. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who never know victory nor defeat. What Brene Brown said, which I found incredibly fascinating, the critic almost always is ourselves.
Yeah.
We are the critic.
Your voice is the loudest.
Most of the people who see us daring bravely or daring greatly thinks we're amazing. It's us. So it's learning to change and being brave. And I think the way we do that is recognizing and navigating our swamp. So I'm back in therapy. I love my new therapist. She's lovely.
So good.
I know, she's really great. And we were doing
I'm
intake.
getting kind of jealous of your therapist. I was like, I think I need a therapist.
You
I gotta
really
find
do.
myself a therapist. I'm feeling left out.
Everybody should have a therapist. And we were doing all our intake stuff. And we were talking a little bit about shame and guilt.
That's the hard part for a new person, like the intake.
Oh,
We're like,
hers is
where
really-
do I begin?
Oh. It's taken 2 sessions to
I
get
was
through
born
the
a baby.
She was like, she literally looked at me, she goes,
And then
so would you say, well, I feel like I know this, that you've lived through some trauma? And I looked at her and she goes, yeah, we're just gonna move. I
We're gonna
feel
click
like
yes.
we're gonna
Check
click
yes.
on check yes.
That's what I would need. I would need just a Q&A. All I have to do is say yes,
Yes
or
or
no.
no.
Yeah,
For
and that's
the
what it
first
was.
3 sessions.
So, and she's working on an actual diagnosis for me, which is really exciting.
Oh, I can't wait to hear that.
Oh, you won't be shocked.
Wait, a diagnosis?
Yeah, guys, hold on
Oh
tight.
my
Do we all have a
gosh.
diagnosis?
I
I'm
want a
sure.
diagnosis.
You have one, I'm sure.
You can give us one after you get yours.
I
Okay.
probably have multiple.
I have multiple. So, but they all stem from one. So,
Oh, I'm so excited about that.
well, I haven't gotten it officially yet. She's working through it, hence the intake
Can you
taking.
give us the report first, please?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you all will get it. But one of the things we talked about was my shame. So my shame that I struggle with the most is, obviously everyone knows that I am unwanted and I am unloved. And so when somebody gives me feedback, kind of like with Kev, with you with the deer, if I hear feedback, I always take it like
as a criticism.
as a criticism. And so it hits me, like you said, he wasn't trying to critique you. He was just saying, oh, you shot that deer. So for me, it's
He thought I was going to wait for a bigger one, so he was like, oh, you took Lemon's deer.
shame.
Yeah.
And so, so for me, I do the same thing. And so what I'm learning is being able to speak out and say that landed on me as a criticism.
Yeah, but we did.
Which is why you're
Yeah.
healing and you can talk
Yeah.
about it and you move on. So last time I talked about Izzy and her going to therapy and how I made it all about myself. And so I was sharing that with my therapist, and that I whispered, "Oh, Amy, someday you'll have to swallow." I know. Someday Amy will learn to swallow. It'll be an exciting day.
I don't know. I think this is actually getting worse. So
I do think she could end up with a feeding tube.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. You guys still help me?
I
Would you like some
totally.
coffee? Plug it into her little IV.
Jeez.
Here's your bag of lunch.
The problem is, I swallow while I'm listening and I react.
Yeah.
That's my laugh.
Oh, good.
Carry on.
So so she was saying, me speaking that truth to Peter and saying, Peter, I'm embarrassed, or I feel shame that when Izzy told me that, the first thing I did was think of myself. And Peter sharing empathy and saying, me too. It dissolved it.
Yes.
It couldn't live anymore.
Yeah.
And so we were having another conversation about one of my children that I oil and water, right? So he shared something that he observed, and I, instead of receiving it, he has, like, we each have a child that is oil and water to us. And I said, oh, you mean like you and such and such? And he was like, what? And it became vigorous fellowship.
Yeah.
Pursued.
Vigorous. It became vigorous fellowship.
It just pursued greatly.
Yeah.
And so
Escalated.
it escalated greatly. And then I manic cleaned the bathrooms and I went to bed and we didn't speak to each other.
Yeah.
And this morning when I woke up, I was praying and I was thinking about today, and I was like, what was my shame? And I went in and I said, I know I suck at communicating with this child. And I'm happy to hear your feedback on that, but it would be probably more helpful if you would empathize with me on that.
You know that I know.
Like,
you don't
no,
need to remind
like,
me.
I get it. I
Yes.
struggle. And so you pointing out every time I struggle is not helpful. But what would be helpful is saying, hey, I saw that was a really hard conversation. Are you doing okay?
Yeah.
And I said, if you would speak to me like that, not with criticism, but with empathy, I think
you would voluntarily
I
share.
would.
I know
I'm gonna totally tell you. I blew it. I blow it every day. And I said, but I think I'll get better at it if I know that you're walking next to me, helping me, instead of watching and judging me.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, and I don't think that's your intention. And I don't think that's his intention. I said, I don't think you have a scoreboard and a clipboard.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, once again.
Yeah.
And I said, but that's how it's landing on me. And he said, I can hear that. I can hear that. And I said, so my defense mechanism was to score you.
Yeah, it's good. Don't we do that?
And he was like,
you take the light off of you and put it onto that.
right. And that's what I did. I said, I was feeling shame. And so instead of owning it, I shined it. So I'm getting a layout of my swamp.
Yeah.
I'm starting to learn where
This book's gonna help you.
Ooh. So I want us we were gonna call this Name Your Shame. So that's my shame. Want to name you guys a shame? real quick, and then we'll kind of end it.
Well, I have a funny, not funny at all, but similar story as far as like things landing and me that's not helping type of thing. So one of my shame is my body. It always has been since I was a very little girl. I think it stemmed from me being covered in psoriasis when I was little, and then pretty quickly realizing that no one else was taking baths in tar or being sat under a sunlight with it not even helping, you know, when they were 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. And so much shame. And then as you get older and kids get mean in middle school, and then I was thrown into school in 5th grade and had everyone, you know, I wore t-shirts until I went to school, and then so many kids found my skin so repulsive that I started wearing long sleeve and long pants and was so uncomfortable because I actually do run hot and was just miserable and so ashamed. And I even had
Can I speak it to that? I have known you since 5th grade. That was the first day we met, was your first day of school.
Yeah.
I have never noticed your psoriasis in my entire life, even then. Like, not once have I ever.
Aw, that's because you
Isn't that funny?
love me. Yeah.
Yeah,
But I want you to hear that. Like,
and probably if you were to really, if you could remember all 13 years of high school, maybe 6 kids said something out of all the kids who saw
Yeah.
your skin. Do you know?
Yeah.
But that's what we do. We
Yeah.
remember.
It was
That's
one
the
in
shame.
particular.
Yep.
The first day of school.
Yep.
That the cloak of shame or the
Yep.
Yeah.
the wash of shame came over me, and it rocked my whole world from that moment on.
yes, your body was disgusting.
Yeah.
And it changes shape now of how it looks disgusting to you, but
Oh,
you
totally.
have never
No.
loved your vessel.
That was a core
No, yeah.
memory or
We're
whatever.
always very.
core.
There's something wrong with me. I'm not like everybody else.
Mhm.
There's something wrong with me. I'm not like everybody else. I'm not enough. So the thing that the self-talk starts to change.
Mhm.
In high school, I developed body dysmorphic
Yeah, you
issues, and so that I would look down
Yeah,
and
you
see
did.
my actually tiny thighs, and they looked really, really big and
Mhm.
purple and like full with veins, and like literally my eyes saw that. My mind saw like this. Like I would ask Kurt all the time, "Do my thighs look this big?" And he'd be like, "They're the tiniest little. They're right there, and they're just put your hands on them, sweetie. Like just
Yeah.
there's this, you know." But like my brain didn't see that, and I never went to counseling for any of this. I just worked through it and felt the big feelings, and then I had anxiety issues that just descended on me clinically from like a textbook classic time in my early 20s, when for a lot of people, as they do, those types of chronic stress induced anxieties or depression will rear its head in those years, because you're starting to look out and like having to become yourself.
Right. You
And
separate
people
from
who
your
have
family.
suffered from traumatic, all the things, if they're at that point, there's no looking out. Like you're just trying to figure out how to survive, you know, every day. You have no skills.
Yeah.
You have no skill set.
Well, and you're separate from your family for the first time. Like both my girls in their 19s, 20s are now like, I need help figuring things out. That's
Totally.
very, very normal.
It's
I ended
very
up in a mental
normal.
institution. You ended up on anxiety meds. We both.
Yeah, it took me a long time to get those.
Yeah.
I also had a lot of gut issues, and then still my psoriasis, and so I was very unhealthy and was very puffy, and started hating my body for a bunch of different reasons, and so never felt. And I could go deep into some of the other things that were happening, but and Kurt, my husband, and if I go back, so Kurt and I were besties. Then we started dating, and it's such a long story and a funny one, but it's like he knew me so well, and like that was God's gift to me, was that I was able to marry someone who knew me and with all my flaws and all my shame,
Knew you in all your stages.
all my stages, and also was one of the only people like really speaking into it hard,
Yeah.
where he's like, "We're gonna eat now because I don't want you to get anorexic."
Yeah.
You know, and all the things. And like he just was a gentle, sweet person through all the things. He always thought I was beautiful. It didn't matter what I felt about myself. But
Still does.
yeah, Well, going up through blah, 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 all the way till last night. So now I'm struggling with my body because I'm 45 and I feel fat and I feel unlovable because I'm not able to get control of my body the way that I want to in the time that I have to do it. So used to be, and we talk about this quite a lot. In your 20s, you don't even have to worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're active, have an active lifestyle, and you eat pretty well, you're not going to have a whole lot of problems. And then in your 30s, you're like, I ate a donut yesterday, and I feel like a little bit weird today. I feel like I don't really love my legs today or my stomach. And then in your 40s, multiply all the things that you thought were happening in your 30s to they're actually happening. So you even just think about a cookie, and then it's on your stomach and you haven't even eaten it yet. And so there's all kinds of psychological things that are going through. You're struggling with how, and you've had babies. All three of us have had big babies, and it's just like your body,
lots of them.
And you can't control any of this. And so for me, there was a lot of shame with not being able to get my body back as fast, or not being able to this, or finally getting to a point where it felt really, really good. In my early 30s, I discovered plexus, and that really, really helped. But I was like, as I'm in my 40s, my mid 40s, there's something that I was like, I feel good. My stomach feels good. I feel healthy, but I'm not when I look in the mirror, I'm like,
That's not what's in my head.
Yeah.
When I picture myself in my head, that is not what I'm picturing.
Yeah. I think that, that's actually a good thing, because what I think about myself normally is pretty good. And when I look in the mirror, I'm like, well. And even last night, with the feedback part of it, I was just like, babe, I'm sorry, I'm chubby. We're getting ready to go on a tropical vacation, and I'm trying to think about myself in little shorts, dresses, and bathing suits. And I was like, I'm not feeling it. I'm like, this is going to be like the All Humiliation Network. And at least it's just my family. It's just our little nuclear, it's us, his parents, his sister. We just go and we hide in a resort, and nobody knows us. So it's like, it's fine. But I was like, I wish that I was in a better place and fit and walking hot with my head held high in confidence and feeling really good about myself, versus I kind of fit into these shorts, but then when I sit, they look really different. Yeah.
And I guess that's just where we're at on this vacation. And I don't love that. And that breeds shame. And so last night I found myself apologizing when I'm curled up for the night with my hubby, and after life and daily living and all the things, and I turn, and then my tummy turns, and I'm literally just sort of like, babe, I'm sorry that I'm chubby. And he's like, honey, it's fine. I was like, well, I'm really frustrated. And I just kind of told him, I was like, I feel frustrated that I'm fasting. I take thousands of dollars worth of supplements. I take this and that. I do this, and I walk, and we're doing all the things, and I do yoga, and I try to do weights. And I was like, and my body's just still getting bigger. And then the look on his face, and I know he doesn't have to say it, is, well, sometimes you still snack at night. And then I just want to rip his face off.
Yeah.
Right, that was...
And then, and then he's just like, well...
That was ballsy.
And then we're not walking every day, honey. We're not, you think that we're walking every day, but we're really not walking every day. And I'm just like... I'm exhausted. I'm trying so hard to be what I want to be, and then and all of this is so resonant because it's not my identity.
It's not it's just a vessel.
It's not my identity, and I think it's right. It's just a vessel. We do as we get older. I was like, I just don't want to be part of the statistics where it's like every decade you gain 10 pounds supposedly.
Yeah. Samesies.
Yeah.
Supposedly,
where I'm at,
supposedly that's true.
Yeah, that is
Except
I've
for
also heard that.
the very lucky person with a really high metabolism.
That were being bulls their whole life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, that is not my hereditary. That is not my genealogy.
Right.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm cut from Greek mythology. In all the curvy ways, and I'm just,
warrior princess.
Oh my word! And I was like, that's all I've got, folks. And I was like, I think I have to just. This is a shame thing.
It is a shame.
This is a shame thing. In my swamp is me, is my body image, and it's just all the things
finding your value in how other people view you.
I just don't even know if that's possible.
Well, no, but no, you value your like I think that's the problem, is that like you think people value you by what you look like, and that your value.
Or you don't value.
I
you.
don't even value me for what I look like.
I think you do, because that's why you're so stressed out about it.
But no, I'm saying I don't love my body.
Right. And you think that you would, and meaning you don't love who you are. Because you.
Yes.
And so what
on the
I'm saying
outside.
is, when I see you, you put so much like you were saying about the psoriasis. I feel like that was as a core piece. Like it's
trauma.
it's your trauma. That's where it all started.
That's the trauma.
It all started there.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, you walked into a room, and I think the way you perceived yourself was that you were a giant scale that was like living like a mollusk, walking around with like sloughing, like leaving a trail.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you, I have known you since you were 10 years old. And I never once noticed that you had scaly skin.
Well, you are not the norm.
I don't know if
No,
that's true.
I don't. I think that is how you want to perceive it.
Yeah.
I'm speaking truth to you.
Okay.
I'm saying,
Okay, yeah.
I
We
say,
see it. We
when
see that.
Amy
That's what I was
met
saying.
you-
6 people,
Yeah.
probably, if you could really think about the people who said things
Amy,
to
when
you.
she first met you,
True.
she did not go up and say, Kevin, there's an actual monster living downstairs.
No.
She's
You
covered
probably thought that about us.
she's covered in scales, and she,
I just noticed you always had your hair in a do-rag, and I just thought that was your style, because you had a
No.
super funky style.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that's your shame. You are giving your body all, and your perception of how you think everyone sees your body, all the power.
Right.
And you talk about it when you talk about going to the gym and how you like bolt across.
Because everybody's watching.
Because
you.
everybody's watching you,
And
and
we're
I'm
like,
saying
no,
no
no.
one is watching you. I love
I
you
don't know if that's true because I'm watching. I look around and I'm like,
because of your shame.
Yeah.
That's why you're looking. No one else is looking at you. You're looking at everyone else to make sure they're not sizing you up, so
Yeah.
that you don't have the shame. That's where it is. It's all
Oh, I
like
still have shame. Even if I'm sizing other people up, I'm like, wow.
that.
I'm
No, that is
still-
why you're
I'm
sizing
still-
people up.
Yeah.
That is why when you look at some, that's why you're.
Because when I go to the gym, or when I run, or I see an older or a bigger person run,
I'm like,
my
yes.
instant first reaction is I want to roll down the window and be like, "You go, girl!"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Please don't." But I'm like, that's my always, no matter what.
Yeah.
And the bigger and the older they are, the more I'm like, "You go."
Yeah, Peter
Rock
said that.
on.
So Peter's a Clydesdale. He's the size of a house, and he runs every day. And everyone tells him you shouldn't be a runner, and he runs. He averages 40 to 60 miles a week. He's done it for years and years and years, and he's just a big guy. He's just a big old man. And he said one day he was running, and this guy, they were running on the track, and this guy said to him, "Hey, I want you to know I have seen you do this for years.
That's cool. Yeah.
And you have motivated me to keep doing it for
Yeah,
years."
that's cool.
And then Peter goes, and then he proceeded to lap me 3 times.
Yeah,
But you know, like,
yeah.
but like that's the thing. Like
I know. I don't know if I'll ever get over it.
you can, if you wash it, you have to stop it and you have to own it and say, I'm feeling shame about my body right
It's
now.
a daily struggle though. So there's some days where I wake up feeling like I'm on the top of the world and I feel really good, and I haven't eaten for 3 days, and
Okay, guys, do not follow that.
That is not the way
no,
to-
I know. No, that's the
But-
thing. I'm saying it's a daily struggle. It's a daily struggle, just like.
Well,
you know.
I think part of that is us living in a broken, fallen world, and why we need Jesus, and
Yep.
why we need Him in our life for all. Because we all have, as will our kids, they'll all have things that they struggle with that we're
Right.
gonna have to walk with them and point them to the Lord. Like, this
Right.
is why we need Jesus.
Yep, and you need to put it on the altar of being and reminding yourself, which is empathy. That's what stops shame, which is God gave me this body.
I know, and I do. I've been trying to speak that over.
And-
I need to find a really good book.
And you need to also
Or
look at yourself
something,
and
yeah.
and change the narrative of how you speak about your body. Of like,
It's
yes,
so hard.
you.
It's so hard.
I'm not
Because
denying
even right
the
now, I'm
hardness,
just like, my leggings are tight.
right? But like, but you can say like
Can't pinch
that
it.
body
Yeah.
brought you your babies.
I know.
Like,
Yeah.
and like I think that
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean you have to do the
You were
work.
sad when your uterus was gone. You missed it.
I know. I was ready to
You
have
were a
it.
little sentimental
I was
about
like,
it.
maybe I'll have a little Downs baby.
need therapy.
I do. I need so much therapy. Probably for the rest of my daisies. I just have
Daisies.
to find one, the right one.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I will wear somebody right out.
But I think you need to. When I hear that, that is your shame. But I think
Yeah, that's the biggest.
I think it is
it's
for
the one
sure.
that wakes up with me every morning, waiting
Mm-hmm.
for
and
me.
I think it drills into, not to like armchair psychology you, but someday I'll be a psychologist and I'll be able to do that.
I'll have to pay her.
No, you guys are in for free.
Yes.
You're gonna
like-
be my therapist.
Oh my gosh.
You can do it. You can handle it. Each other.
We could handle each other. But I think that's where your perfectionism comes in as well.
Yeah, all that. I
And-
have deep-seated reasons for that as well.
Right, and
that
I
were
so-
not my fault.
No, but
I
I
think mine
think-
are my fault.
I think so too when I think about you.
Yeah.
I love you. I feel bad. I'm like, nope, you're right.
No,
So now it's your turn.
Your
then.
turn.
Tell me
Well,
about that.
I
Let me hear
think-
about that.
I think my struggle is like, it's like my overarching struggle is my worth is in what I do.
Yes.
And that's why I am so big of a soapbox, like your identity is not in like in my business, like that's how I try to, that's the message I always try to give my team is your identity is not in your rank, it's not in your paycheck, it's not in what you've earned, it's not in the prizes you've won, your identity is in who God says you are, because I'm preaching to the choir.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And so, and I believe that to my core. I do absolutely believe that to my core, but that's my daily struggle. Even in my day, I feel super accomplished, and it's why I love structure so much. I don't love vacations. I struggle on vacation because it's nebulous, and the whole goal of vacation is to chill, and I don't love to chill. Like, I'm much more like, I'd like to get up, do my devotions, run my mileage, and then we can play, but I always want to reward. I don't want to just play without, like 7 days of play is hard for me. And so that's my overarching, and from the time I was a little girl, if I got a 98 on a test, I'm like, where did I lose the 2 points? Shoot, I should have known that. And I can remember Mom coming into the bedroom and like making me a hot chocolate and pulling me away from my books and being like, you're done, like let's watch a show as a family. So those are my childhood memories. It was all like, because Kevin and I talk about that a lot, because he calls me A++, like when he's teasing me. Okay, A++, you know.
That is literally the best nickname for you ever.
Yeah. And so he's like, your parents weren't, and they weren't. And so I err so to the extreme with my kids that I don't think school was made for boys anyways, but I'm like, I don't care what you get for grades. I don't ever ask for the report cards, but I'm like, if you fail, you're going to be bummed because you can't play your sports, which is what you love. But I'm going to ask you, did you try? You know, did you try your hardest? Did you put effort into it? And if you got a D from putting effort into it, I don't care. And I really don't, because I put so much on myself, and it was always on myself. I wanted to be valedictorian. I wanted to be, you know, and so, and I do think part of that is personality, like when you study the Enneagram, things like that, like I do think a lot of that is personality driven. But the danger is that if the identity is in that, which is why Plexus has been so hard for me, because it's not my love. Sales is not my love, and it's so rank driven and prize driven and status driven that it is a daily humbling of just like, and I've said I'm here for the long haul. It's a marathon, it's not a sprint, and I want to have joy in the journey and not be like quit every day because I didn't hit my goal. Do you know what I mean? And so that's my overarching. And then
So is shame when you don't, like, where's the shame point?
well, I think the shame is just in if I'm not measuring up to my standards.
Yeah.
But if other people speak into like criticism, I think that I like reading this book, which I'm going to do next. Like each personality has their own kryptonite, and I think that mine is criticism. That's where the wash comes over. Like I felt what Kevin said was a criticism, like
Of your choice.
yeah,
Just
like
like the deer.
whoa, you shouldn't have like that. You know what I mean? Or another time when I felt deep rooted shame, but Kevin, what's the word? He
Filled it with, he dissolved it.
He dissolved it, which I would carry to this day, is when Jesse was a little boy and he burned his hand on my curling iron. And if you look at his hand today, I mean, he has mitts, and his 2 whole fingers and this part of his palm is scar tissue, horrible scar tissue. And Kevin had said to me, every day of life, I'm talking for weeks on end, we had this little that little bathroom in Pennsylvania.
I remember
And
it so well.
there was no shelf to put my curling iron on. And so I said it on the toilet seat. Jesse wasn't crawling it. Literally every single day, Kevin said, you really shouldn't put the curling iron there because Jesse's going to be crawling one of these days, and if he grabbed it, he could hurt himself really badly. And I was like, you're totally right. And I would like put it someplace else. Every day we had this conversation. Every day. I'm not even exaggerating. And one day, a friend and I were going to go to an Amish farmer's market, and so I needed the car, so I took Kevin to school, left the curling iron plugged in, came home, and I remember I was back in my blogging days, and I sat down to write a blog. And Kaden said, Mommy, I have to go to the bathroom. Can Jesse come with me? Because Jesse was crawling at the time. And I said, sure, you can go. And I heard his scream to this day. And I remember, I was like, oh, Jesus. And I ran to him, and he had the curling. I'm like, he couldn't let go of it. And so anyway, I had a friend, I didn't even know where to go for a hospital, and so anyway, she drove us, and her husband had to find Kevin, and when Kevin walked through the hospital doors, he could hear Jesse's screams. And so when he walked in, just like to the nurses, I was like, they're gonna take this baby from me, it's like abuse, you know, and they were so gentle, and I just remember keeping saying, I'm really a good mom, so shame, right? I'm a good mom, this shows that I'm not. And Kevin came in and he said, honey, it's okay. It could have happened to anybody. Yeah. And I'm like, that is such a lie. Because it was, you know, every day he had said, don't do it. And he doesn't curl his hair. I'm the only one, you know, but he diffused that. And like, if he had said anything, like Peter saying to you with your conversation, he's like, I know what I did. And I own it. Like, you don't have to tell me what I did.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And so he just said, like, it's okay, sweetie. Like, it could have happened to anybody. And for like weeks, I mean, so his, like, to this day when I tuck him in at night and if his hand is like this and I see it, I'm just like, that is my biggest sadness. In all of my life, that's my biggest sadness.
Yeah.
And it was a stupid thing, but I mean, I knew better. And so that's like, I didn't do right. It wasn't, you know what I mean? So.
But it was also an opportunity. Like, I remember you saying, I love Kevin so much more.
Oh my gosh, I fell in love. Oh my goodness.
Treated me. He's like, it was so gracious.
Yeah.
And he could have held it over my head. But
oh gosh, he could have held it over my head.
Yeah.
And the other time he could have held it over my head was he literally bought me a brand new, like not like a brand new hundreds of dollars worth phone because I wanted pictures, business, whatever. I dropped it in the toilet at Cabela's, having owned it for 3 days. And he said nothing. He didn't speak the whole drive home, but he fought to get me a refurbished one. Like the thing said it should be like water resistant or waterproof for up to 10 minutes. It was in the toilet for like 3 seconds, but like so kind and so gracious. And I wouldn't have been. I know I wouldn't have been. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like you're paying for it. You know what I mean? Like, so he's so much more gracious than I am. With mistakes.
That's amazing. And it's not only in the moment, but it's like he never said it after.
Ever. Never.
He never said it afterwards, where it's like, remember that time? Wow. Which is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be my thing. Making mistakes, which obviously is so dumb, everybody does, and other people calling it out and criticizing it. Like that's my kryptonite. It's like I know what I did, and I'm my harshest whatever.
So name your shame. Know it, understand where it comes from, right? That's the whole point. And then learning to combat your shame by not making it silent, not keeping it secret, and not judging it or judging other people's shame, and to give it empathy. That's what he had for you. That's what Kev did. He was giving you empathy. He was saying that could have happened to anyone. That is literally the definition of empathy.
Yeah.
That could have happened to anyone. And that shame cannot grow in empathy. Shame cannot grow in the light. Shame cannot grow in speaking it out. We keep over and over again. The more I learn about therapy and overcoming trauma and becoming more authentic, the more our voice in speaking. And that's how God works, right? He literally spoke the world. He didn't have to. He could have thought about it in the whole earth. But there's a power in speaking our shame.
Well, even non-believers believe that doing that.
Yeah,
like
I mean, because it's truth, and all truth is of all truth is of God. So
all truth is God's truth.
So understanding and learning to be brave and speak your shame, and trusting that the critic usually in the arena is you,
right?
For sure.
And and remembering the other truth is that we see other people's vulnerability as courageous.
It's beautiful. We see it as beautiful
and amazing and stunning, and we see our own as weakness. And being brave to speak that out, and it will disarm. It will,
Mhm.
even if it's somebody who doesn't like you, like let's say you see your arch nemesis, right? Like I have lots of those. So I see my arch nemesis and they say, Amber, you are so selfish, or you are so arrogant, or you are so, and I can say, you better believe it, bucko.
Mhm.
I remember you saying that once, and it was,
That was me being nice, is what I said.
yes, and
Who was telling me that I was mean and selfish
right, and
and
you
a
said
horrible
that-
person. I was
and-
like, that was me being nice.
and that disarmed him. That just, it totally
He didn't know where to go from there.
because so even with our enemies, we can say
Yeah.
the truth. But because I am not arrogant. I, Amber Christine, am a child of God, born in the image of God. My behavior, yes, I am arrogant. I am selfish. I am self-seeking. But
I need Jesus.
I also have the fruit of the Spirit in me, and that is my identity.
Yeah.
My identity is in Christ. In Christ is love, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. So that's what I'm gonna identify,
Yes, that's my
and
identity.
then I'm going to release the shame of who I am not. That's just my behavior, and that's been paid for.
Every day.
Every day, every minute.
And maybe it will, like, if I really consciously was trying to work on that, maybe it will.
I think it will work, Rach.
You know, but
I think you
at
need
the
to
moment I usually just sit in the swamp.
Yeah.
Just like, oh,
get
sit
out of the
Get
swamp.
out of the swamp.
Get out of the swamp, people.
Well, because for sure it's something, at least that, on that front, I was like, it's only going to get worse.
Yes, because your
I'm only
vessel
gonna get
is
older.
going to
Shout out your shame, then get out of the swamp.
Your 90s praise song will be coming soon from Robert Ellen Redeemed. That's all I got,
You're
guys.
gonna be a second line next week.
Bye.
Absolutely wonderful. I love that. Well done.
Do we need to pee? What's
Yes.
happening?
I need to pee and get more water.
Okay, pumpkin.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Sorry I was so hard on you, but I think it's true.
Oh, we could stay in that for a whilesies. What's
Oh,
coming next? Something needs to follow that, but I'm not sure about what.
Oh, for me?
Yeah, like
Don't
Well,
you,
this is
don't
gonna
you
take us a
worry
little
about
deeper.
me.
This will take us a little deeper.
Don't you worry about me. I have plans.
Oh, you do?
I told you I'm doing a whole series on one
Oh,
series.
okay, oh good.
So you're gonna have to, because these next two, they're not heavy, but they're meaty.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to do a more of a
Spunky dunky don't.
or like cleaning or
Yeah.
silly or
It's probably time to. Well, it's not quite time for spring cleaning, but
By the time these are
I can
done,
definitely come up with something silly.
Yeah.
it'll be soon though, Rach.
Yeah.
Because if we have
Okay.
this one,
Okay.
3 more, that takes us into April, or end of March at least.
Yeah,
Okay, I have a
you're
Zoom
right.
at noon.
You're right.
Time to stand. It says. Okay, we still got an hour.
I gotta pee, so let's time to stand.
You guys go pee. I'll just follow along behind. and-
Okay, pumpkin.
Okay.
Okay, pumpkin.
So it's that getting up. It's
Yeah.
that getting up.
Getting old. Getting old.
Look at me.
Well, here we go.
Here we go.
Here we go. We're gonna need a ramp soon.
I know.
Come on up,